Your values are so important to work and to your happiness at work. And it's so frequent for us to kind of ignore some of those values and to try to press through and to really kind of override things that feel important to us. Remember that when you're thinking about the values you have at work, you should consider a whole lot of things instead of just the stuff that you really notice immediately. So you're going to want to pay attention to things like what you get paid and who your coworkers are or will be, and the autonomy you're granted at work, and the kind of feedback you get from supervisors, and the diversity at your workplace, and support around things like professional growth and development, and vacation and benefits, and all of those kinds of things, because they really feed together and contribute or fail to your contentment at your job. So I'm going to tell you a little story about the time that I overrode my values and wound up not very happy in my job. And the thing is, most of what I did was good, right? I really enjoyed the huge bulk of what I was doing. I was working in a bookstore. And I really loved being able to connect people with books that they were seeking, or help them find gifts for loved ones and all of that. And I enjoyed almost all of my coworkers. They're always the jerks. But by and large, I really liked my coworkers. I love the physical feeling of the store. I love the location of the store. Really, there were a lot of things about the job that were really wonderful and very satisfying to me. Unfortunately, I overlooked two pieces that are really crucial to me, and they weren't big. And so it took me a long time to come around to the place where I realized that I wasn't happy. And it was really hard for me to put my finger on why that was. Those two pieces were, as you might expect from a bookstore, the pay was terrible. I topped out at a little bit over minimum wage, not very much over, after I'd been there for several years. And the hours stink. Retail is rough, holidays and evenings and weekends. And so it was really hard for me to find time to do things like see my friends and family. So it was really frustrating. And those two pieces really began to add up over time. And the hard part was I couldn't really put my finger on why I was starting to feel unhappy. It wasn't a situation that's kind of more traditional, like a new boss came in and toxified the whole environment, or there was a big organizational change and what I was doing wasn't the same work I had enjoyed before. It was nothing like that. It was really hard for me to put my finger on, but over time, I began to get increasingly unhappy about my job. And it wasn't ever like dread and horror, but it was definitely a kind of increase in my unhappiness. And I noticed things like my energy went down. I wasn't doing as much of the normal healthy stuff that I do around that. So things like exercising, eating well, getting good sleep, seeing my friends, just kind of started to fall by the wayside. And again, not in a huge way. And that was why it was so tricky for me, because these were not enormously obvious values to me, right? But, every Christmas Eve and every New Year's Day, I would be there working and I would think, ugh, this is kind of terrible, right? And we had a couple of super long shifts when we would do inventory for the store. And it was just really frustrating and just not fun. And it started to make me kind of grumpy and kind of very low energy and just stuff that was really not a good reflection of me. And here's the tricky part about that. What a lot of my clients will say is that, for example, money is not their primary concern with a job, right? And that's fair, and that's a perfectly good way to go about looking for a job. But remember that money is still a value, right? We all have a set of values around what we earn from our work. And if at the end of the day, it just doesn't feel fair to you, or if you can't make ends meet, you always feel like you're struggling, you're always kind of on the verge of financial panic, an unexpected expense could kind of blow your whole month. It's just a really uncomfortable place to be, particularly over an extended period of time. Now, there are a lot of social justice things we could get into here about who gets paid what, but I'm going to kind of skip over that for now and just remind you that what you earn is important, even if it's not your primary value around any of this. Your vacation time, your benefits, all of these things are valuable and they're really worth considering. And what you need to know is kind of what the sense is of your own values and how it plays out together and what you need in order to be satisfied from your job. But don't feel like this is something that someone else can tell you, right? This is very, very personal. And I have a lot of friends who stayed in their same roles in that bookstore for many years after I left because they were getting their needs met in other arenas, or sometimes they had partners who were making better money, or they had living situations that were different from mine, whatever it was, right? And so your sense of kind of what you should be earning in a job and your sense of kind of how much autonomy you have and the kinds of tasks that you get to do, all of that is very individual. And so tomorrow I do have a link in the blog that I'm going to post that really contains some of those key ideas to consider. It's just a really quick little quiz that I link to in the blog. So check that out if you're having trouble identifying some of those values, because it can be tricky. And the stuff that feels really obvious is actually not always our most important value. So have some fun, take the little quiz, pay attention to it, because at the end of the day, you also deserve to be happy in your job. And there's no magic formula that will get you to the place of being happy. So think about your own values, your own sense of what makes you happy, the kinds of things you really enjoy doing, as well as what you're able to do, what fits into your current life. All of those pieces that are going to come together ideally and help you find a job that's really going to make you pretty happy in the world and pretty content with the way things are going. And if you have any questions, let me know. But like I said, that video will post, or that's not a video, that message will post tomorrow with the quiz link in it. You might not get to it tomorrow. I hope you have plans to have a really fun 4th of July that's safe and social distanced and all of that. But it is going to be up, so check it out when we have a chance, and let me know if you have questions. And have a great holiday weekend. I will see you all here next week.